My name is Stan Shipman, and I've been married to Lucy, previously Lucy Dalton, for 5 years. We had a crush on each other in high school, and I believed we were soulmates. We were married right after high school. Yes, a big error. I understand, but we were so in love with each other that we believed it would work out. God, I was mistaken. Money was not an issue. I am a welder by trade. I've been doing this since I was a kid. My father was a welder and taught me everything I needed to know. I've been connecting metal since I was big enough to use a welder safely. As a child, I always wanted to accompany my father to a building site, but I couldn't. Union laws and insurance requirements precluded it. But my father did home manufacturing, and he always let me do stuff. It was a fantastic experience for me, and I enjoyed doing it. After high school, I went to learn how to weld, but the classes bored me because I already knew everything. So I took the exam and outperformed all of the professors. I received my certificate and went right to work. Because I already had a lot of experience and could not just weld, but also fabricate and fit parts, I was paid well, especially when I had to go to large assignments out of state. I also did some underwater welding and earned a lot of money from it. I raised enough money for Lucy to attend college, and now she works as a paralegal at a great law company downtown. So why am I running? Why am I on the freeway in the middle of the night? The answer is the two-legged creature I married and her wicked companion. Yes, Lucy was very sweet and cheerful when we were younger, but things can change, and they did. Don't get me wrong, I adored this woman and was more than willing to pay for her education. Her parents expected me to go into debt to make it happen, but they greatly underestimated me. Today is her graduation day. They were equally proud of me as they were of her. In fact, thanks to me, she graduated without any student debt. However, all changed when she began working at McMaster and Fredericks, a law company. Things were well for the first several months, but they gradually deteriorated. At the very least, some of her female co-workers had a negative impact on her. Lucy began attending hen parties with them once a week, typically on Wednesday nights. I didn't mind at first because she typically came home early enough for us to spend the evening together, and I was frequently at the building site busting my ass. She gradually started going out on Wednesday and Friday nights. It annoyed me that we normally had date night on Fridays. When I reminded Lucy of this, she said, "We can always go out on Saturdays. I deserve that time with my pals." Then she began staying out longer and longer. She didn't get home until early Saturday morning. I tried calling her number to see if she was okay, but it constantly went to voicemail. Finally, I was fed up, so I sat her down at the table to discuss it. "We need to talk." I stated this one Saturday morning over a cup of coffee. "What is this about?" She inquired about your Friday night parties. I mentioned that Friday used to be our date day, but lately you've been partying until nearly 4 a.m. on Saturdays. What the hell is going on? I barely see you. She mentioned that she and the girls from the office enjoy going out and relaxing with a few drinks. Sometimes we even dance. That's about it. I told her that these clubs normally close by 1 a.m., but you got there much later. What's happening? Are you seeing anyone else? Of course not, she responded with a heavy sigh. If you really want to know, we do go out to eat occasionally. Yes, but before 4 in the morning, I inquired. Sometimes Lucy said, "Well, this shit needs to stop." I told her, "You must make a decision. You are either my wife or their buddy. They already see you more frequently than I do. I don't mind spending a night with the girls, but I feel like you're taking advantage of me." "I apologize," she said. "If you prefer, I will cease seeing girls on Fridays. That sounds like an excellent concept." I said, "This way we may spend time together." She nodded in agreement before going to take a shower. I used the opportunity to take her phone out of her purse and install a phone locator software to keep track of where she was. I hated doing it, but I felt compelled to do it for my own peace of mind. Things were well for a few weeks, but Lucy quickly reverted to her old habits and began leaving the house on Wednesday and Friday nights. I needed to find out what was going on, so I used my phone's lookup app to locate out where she was. After getting home from work that Friday, I cleaned up and went to the club where she and her pals were. It wasn't a club, but rather a bar with a DJ and a dance floor. I stepped in and recognized her immediately. She was seated with a group of 4 women and 3 males. I observed Lucy was conversing fairly nicely with the guy seated next to her, almost too much, if you get what I mean. They were absolutely unaware of my presence until I was right at their table. Everyone but Lucy looked at me, and the guy next to her piped out. "What do you want?" he questioned, giving me a look like he was about to kick my ass. I had just gotten home from work and decided to get a beer. I said, causing Lucy to look at me in amazement. "So I enter this bar and see what I find. Don't you plan to present me to your friends?" Lucy glanced around uneasily. She was obviously humiliated. "Everyone," she said, "this is Stan. He's my hubby." She finally added something. "Stan, this is everyone." "Well, welcome to everyone," I replied sarcastically. I noticed that she was not wearing a wedding or engagement band. "You didn't forget anything, right?" She noticed me glancing at her left hand. "I removed the rings so I wouldn't lose them," she said. "Bullshit," I thought to myself, but I opted not to argue. "I see," I replied. The guy next to her rose up and puffed out his chest. He extended his hand and I took it. "Jake," he mentioned. "Jake Rollins. Lucy and I worked a lot together." He finished with a smirk. The rest of us chuckled slightly, except Lucy. He grasped my palm in an unsuccessful attempt to frighten me and establish himself as the alpha male. It didn't work, so I squeezed it back and pressed his delicate feminine hand against mine as firmly as I could. I could tell he was in anguish. "So I let go. I was about to invite your wife to dance, if you don't mind." He spoke while caressing his hand. I looked at Lucy. "Is this true?" I asked her. She looked at me and gave a slow nod. I believed this was an opportunity to find out what was actually going on, so I nodded and granted him permission. "Yes," I answered. "Just keep your hands to yourself, and remember that this is my wife, and I will be monitoring you." He nodded as Lucy rose from her seat. After she stood up, I sat down in Jake's old seat and ordered a beer. Most of the others had already left for an unknown location. You are aware that you do not own it. While I was waiting for my beer, the female next to me mentioned something. "How about you?" I asked Marie. She responded, "Maria Compton. I've been mentoring Lucy a little bit, teaching her how to do things and such." "So, Marie Compton?" I teased about how she and Jake introduced themselves. "Who are you that I should seek marriage advice from?" "I'm Lucy's friend, and as I mentioned, I'm mentoring her," she said, taking a sip from her drink. "The partners enjoy her work and have big hopes for her." I didn't like her arrogant demeanor and wondered what nonsense she was giving Lucy. "All right, Marie," I replied. "I never claimed Lucy belonged to me, yet I am her husband. If something happens that disrupts our marriage, I need to know about it. Truth be truthful, Stan, Lucy needs to broaden her horizons a little." Marie referred to college as her only experience. "And you? She needs to, expand her wings a little. Expand your horizons and spread your wings," I asked. "Anything else? Does she need to spread?" "There's no need to be disrespectful," Marie said. "But now that you mention it, there are certainly more things she needs to experience. Of course, you will only gain in the long term." "How?" I asked. "Maybe she'll learn something and bring it home to you," Marie replied with a smile. "After all, you presumably take on a part-time job when you go out to make money, right?" "No, Marie, I don't. I claimed I was going to work my ass off, give my all, get paid, and then come home. I adore Lucy, and I would never do anything to damage her or threaten our marriage. Perhaps you need to extend your horizons." She replied with a smirk. "I take my wedding vows very seriously," I stated. "I believe Lucy will do the same. I don't notice any rings on your fingers." "Have you ever married?" she replied several times. "Let me guess. Did your husbands catch you cheating?" I asked. She shrugged his shoulders. "Yeah," as she said. "I do not belong to anyone. I do whatever I want, with anyone I want." "Well, Lucy is busy, and I expect you to respect that," I explained. She chuckled. "Yeah. You'll keep thinking that," she added. Jake and Lucy had already returned from the dance floor. I stood up so that Lucy could sit between Marie and myself. I sat down, not allowing Jake to sit next to her. He didn't look happy, but I didn't mind. "So Lucy tells me you are a welder," Jake stated. "And how much do welders make today?" $15 per hour. "Actually, I make around $35 an hour. I said more if you had to work underwater." "Didn't Lucy tell you that I paid for her college tuition?" "So you are repaying her student loans?" he asked. "No, she does not have a loan because I paid her tuition," I informed him. "I also purchased a new Toyota for her." "Damn, I had no idea welders made that much money," he said. "I am in the wrong business." "I bet you get a lot of women on the side when you go out of town," he said, nudging me with his elbow. "No, I work when I'm not in town." I said. When I'm on the building site, I normally work 16 hours every day. As I told Marie, I take my wedding vows extremely seriously. I am sure you do, Jake replied smugly. I didn't like where this was going, and these folks were starting to irritate me off. I turned to my wife. Have you driven her today? I asked her. Yes, she responded. Good. I informed her that I'd had enough fun to stand here today. I am on my way home. I expect to see you by my side. When I went to get up, I accidentally knocked over a fully full ice-cold beer across Jake's lap, dirtying the crotch of his khaki pants. Oops, I said. Sorry for that. I think you should go home and change your jeans. He jumped up, furious, and appeared to be about to swing. You should do it, buddy, I told him. He saw the look in my eyes and drew away. That was a smart move, I told him. I looked at my wife again. Are you coming? I am right behind you. She spoke quietly. I saw Maria's gaze on me. Believe me, if looks could kill, I would be dead by now. I walked out the door, not looking back. Lucy pulled into the driveway a few minutes after me. Good for her, I thought. I took a beer from the fridge and waited for her in the living room. She barged into her face and read. What the hell was that? She demanded. You made me feel extremely ashamed. Have I embarrassed you? I asked rhetorically. Are you following me or something? She asked. I shake my head. No, I just came to get a beer and was shocked to find you there with some workmates. I confessed, realizing I had just lied to her for the first time since meeting you. If anyone should be embarrassed, it was me. Imagine what ran through my mind when I saw my wife. The love of my life and dearest friend in the world was seated there with another woman. And imagine how I felt when I saw you remove your wedding band. You felt embarrassed to acknowledge you were married to me, right? Her expression softened, and she took a seat next to me. Of course not, she replied. It's just that I need to work with these guys. Jake is the lawyer I work with the most. And Marie? I inquired. What is her role? Lucy explained that she is higher up on the food chain than I am. She coaches me and teaches me how to work. Does this include spousal advice? I ask. What do you mean? She asks. So when you and Jake were dancing, she told me all about how you should broaden your horizons and extend your wings. I said, be honest with me. Have you cheated on me? No, I have not, she said, lowering her gaze. For some reason, she couldn't look me in the eyes. She's really lying to me. I hope not, since that's something I'll never forgive, I told her. Well, Marie suggested you might get some while you're away. Lucy asked, do you know? I told her. We had probably known each other since 6th grade. Have you ever seen me be unfaithful to you? She shakes her head. No, she replied gently. I've never cheated on you and I won't. I said, I love you too much to insult and hurt you in this way. Besides, while I am not here, I am too busy working. I was not kidding when I told Jake that. I often work 16 hours per day. I understand, she said. I have seen your payroll. Here you go, I told her. What do you believe you went to college for? You purchased a new automobile while dressed in beautiful attire. And this is in addition to paying our monthly bills. You know, I've been saving money for a great down payment on a house, so you can tell Marie to put her nonsense up her ass and shut the heck up about stuff she doesn't understand. Did you tell Lucy that you didn't really like her? Not at all. I stated that I dislike the trash she gives you. The same goes with Jake. I do not trust either of them. Did you know she has been divorced twice for cheating? Lucy glanced at me in disbelief. How do you know this? She asked. She told me, and I responded with a sense of pride. I have a feeling that two are up to something and want to bring you down with them. You haven't done anything wrong, right? No, Stan, I have not, she said. It is just. That's exactly what I asked. I enjoy going out with them, she told me. I like meeting you too, I told her. Do you believe you could start spending more time with your husband? Sure. She spoke as she wrapped her arms around my neck. I apologize. It's okay, I told her. I've only wanted 3 things in life. This is what she asked me. First, to marry you. I said so. To be the best welder around. Third, having a family with you. She grinned and snuggled closer to me. Well, you have the first 2 items, she responded. Would you like to work on the third? It was my turn to smile. Let's go, I said. We dashed to our bedroom and spent the rest of the night making love. Things appeared to ease down for another several months. Lucy stayed at home on Fridays, so I tried to be more attentive and affectionate. I purposefully avoided mentioning Marie or Jake because I was confident Lucy would do the right thing. Then it occurred. I arrived home one Friday night to find the house dark, with only a few candles blazing on the dining room table. The smell of lasagna came from the kitchen, so I assumed Lucy had prepared something special. I walked into the dining room and noticed that our best china was on the table. Turning around, I noticed her, my gorgeous wife. "Do you like what you're seeing?" she asked. I nodded my head. "I'm glad," she replied. "Tonight is going to be exceptional." "Why?" I asked. She expressed amazement. "Go get cleaned up, then sit down while I prepare dinner." I walked into my bedroom, cleaned up, and changed into my work clothes. By the time I washed up and returned to the dining room, Lucy had already served the lasagna and poured us each a glass of wine. I adored Lucy's cooking, especially her lasagna, which was always topped with cheese and stuffed with meat and mushrooms. I'm not sure what's more tempting. I sat down at the table and remarked, "You're the lasagna." She giggled as she sat down. "So I hope you enjoyed both tonight," she replied with a smile. I dived into my lasagna, which was wonderful as always. When I finished everything, I had a strange sense. I tried to rise up, but I was dizzy and nearly fell down. I stared at Lucy, puzzled. What did she do? I asked myself. I attempted to speak, but it was quite difficult. "What?" I started, but then I tumbled to the floor. When I regained consciousness, I discovered myself chained to a chair in our bedroom. My hands were attached to the chair's armrests, while my feet were strapped to my legs. What the hell was that? I asked myself. I got enraged and screamed. "Lucy!" I exclaimed. "What the hell is going on?" A few minutes later, Lucy entered the bedroom, but she was not alone. Maria was accompanying her. "What the heck is this shit?" I asked. "Get the hell out of this chair!" "I apologize, honey," Lucy said. Marie claimed it was better this way. "Better for what?" I demanded. "So you may watch your wife broaden her horizons," Maria replied gently. "Was it your idea to tie her to the chair?" I asked. "Of course it was," Maria responded. "And have you consented to this yet?" I asked. "You understand what that entails." "I'm sorry," Lucy replied. But Maria claimed that was the only way out. "Please believe me. We will not be affected in any manner. I still love you, but I don't. I never fantasized, and certainly it affects us. I told you that I would not accept cheating." "And what the heck did you put on me?" I asked her. "I swear to God," I said, "Lucy, I've never dreamt about this, and I guarantee that if you don't release me from this goddamn chair and get this monster off of me right now, we're screwed. Please do not do this," Lucy begged. "It's only one night. I'll let you go after we're done." I shake my head. "You are not that foolish, Lucy," I told her. "Let me go now." Then two men entered and began doing it to my wife. She finally let me go, but I quickly dressed and headed to the phone. "What are you doing now?" she asked as I dialed 911. I may be a welder, but I am not stupid. I knew what she and her companions were doing was extremely unlawful, and I planned to put them in jail that same night. Lucy became alarmed when she discovered I had just contacted the police to report a sexual assault with unlawful restraint. I seized Lucy's cell phone to prevent her from calling Marie. I also took my keys from her handbag to prevent her from leaving. She tried to take my phone and keys, but I was able to wrangle them away and place them in my jeans pocket. After I finished talking, I sat down and waited for the cops. I knew they'd want to examine me and collect fluid samples as evidence. "Please don't press charges," Lucy begged. "I do not want to go to jail. Trust me, this is the most secure spot for you right now." I said, "You can dress. The cops will arrive any minute. You listen to what Jake and Marie stated." Lucy told me, "They are serious. You do not want to mess with them. Get dressed," I told her. Lucy observed the look on my face and decided not to push me. She discreetly dressed, and I noticed her cell phone humming in her pocket. I took it out and noticed Marie had sent a text. "Is everything okay? Read Marie's message. Everything is fine." I sent a text. "He isn't happy, but he'll get over it." I sent the message thinking Marie would fall for the lie. I slipped my phone back into my pocket. The police had already come as Lucy walked through the front door. I opened the door and let them in. One look at my face told me everything was going wrong. One of the officers took my statement, while another spoke with Lucy in the bedroom. The officer who took my statement called an ambulance and collected swabs from my face to place in evidence bags. The second officer returned, and they conferred briefly at the front door before returning. When they returned, the second cop entered the bedroom and exited with Lucy. Her hands were behind her back as she cried. "Please do not let them arrest me," she implored. This was only supposed to be enjoyable. I shook my head, turning away from her. By then, 2 more police cars and an ambulance had arrived. A police officer appeared in the doorway and escorted Lucy away. The police officer who took my statement informed me that she was being arrested. He said, "We'd like to have you checked out at the hospital. The more proof against those responsible, the better. You should probably sign a protective order as well." He told me that he had given me a card with the name and phone number of a local prosecutor's office attorney. I already called her and she agreed to meet you at the hospital. He told me. I thanked him and followed the paramedics to the hospital's emergency room, where they conducted a quick examination. They examined me, sampled the stuff on my face, bathed me, and collected blood and urine samples. I was given some painkillers, which were just starting to relax me. When a well-dressed woman entered the exam room, she asked Stan Shipman. I nodded my head. "That is me." I said, "Hello, Mr. Shipman. My name is Linda Calloway." She said, "I'm the assistant district attorney assigned to your case." "How do you feel?" "I have been feeling better." I mentioned that I am a little tired right now. They gave me medication to relieve the ache. "Mr. Shipman, the cops who brought you in have briefed me of the circumstances." She further stated, "I have been informed that the other woman and the 2 men who assaulted you have been arrested and are being held in the county jail pending a hearing. I'm recommending that they be freed on bond, but in reality, they'll probably be released on their own recognizance. I'm afraid the corporation they work for wields a lot of power in the county. That is why I have taken it upon myself to obtain a protective order for you. Thank you for that." I asked, "Do you think it will help?" She shrugged. "I cannot say for certain." She stated it might happen, but there is no assurance. I nodded my head. "I understand." I said, "If it's any comfort, they'll remain in a cell until their arraignment hearing on Monday morning." She spoke after that. "I understand." I said, "I am just an ordinary working man with no friends in high places. When it comes to fighting, I will be alone." "You have me, Mr. Shipman," she remarked reproachfully, "so long as you don't make any dumb decisions. However, unless you intend to remain married to your wife, you should consider hiring a divorce lawyer." "No, I'm done with her," I said. She nodded in understanding. "I've been instructed that your plan would be held overnight for observation," she explained. "And that's good. Your residence is suddenly a crime scene. They'll need time to sort through everything and acquire proof. By the way, do you own a gun?" I shake my head. "No, I don't own one," I informed her. "Good," she said. "Just so you know, we have lock laws in our state that allow you to defend yourself in your own home. I will keep that in mind." I stated that my parents arrived the next morning after I ate breakfast. They sat in silence while I informed them what had transpired. When I finished, my father was upset. "What are you planning to do, son?" he asked. "I'm going to divorce that bitch," I told him. He nodded approvingly. "Good for you," he said. "Is there anything we can do?" I could use the name of a good divorce lawyer. I said, "I know a few." He said, "I'll see what I can come up with." "Also, I could use a ride home after you're discharged," I said. "No problem." My dad said, "Just call me when you're ready. In the meantime, get some rest and take it easy. Don't do anything stupid, you know me." I said, "Yeah, I do," he said with a smile. "That's why I said don't do anything stupid." We all had a good laugh and they left after my mom gave me a hug. A little while later, Lucy's parents came in. We always got along well and they were like second parents to me. I told them about what had happened the night before. They were shocked and embarrassed at what their daughter had done. "I take it you're going to file for divorce?" her father said. I nodded my head. "Yes," I answered. "I can't live with what she did." "I understand," he said, "and I'm really sorry." "Is there anything we can do?" her mother asked. "If Lucy gets out of jail, she's going to need a place to stay. I said the ADA will get a protective order so she won't be able to stay in the apartment." "She can stay with us," her mother said. "Thank you," I told her. We said goodbye and they left. The doctor came in a couple of hours later and examined me. He deemed me fit to be discharged and the nurses began the paperwork. I knew it would take a while, so I called my dad and let him know. My parents returned just as the paperwork was being finalized. After the nurse gave me instructions, she put me in my wheelchair and took me to the loading area where my dad's car was parked. They helped me get in, and we drove off. Soon we pulled up to the apartment. Dad helped me to the door and we said goodbye again. Remember? He said, "If you need anything, just call. Thanks, Dad." I said. I went into the apartment and looked around. The police had gone through everything, and I knew it would take a while to put everything in its proper place. I noticed right away that there was a message on the answering machine. I listened to the message. "Dad, meet." The message read. Nothing else. No introduction. Nothing. I looked and found the number listed as private. Something about the message sounded familiar, so I listened to it a few more times and then it hit me. It wasn't a person speaking directly into the receiver. I recognized the phrase from one of the old Rocky movies, specifically the Mr. Teen movie. Whoever had sent the message had recorded it and then played it back over the phone. A few minutes after, I guess the doorbell rang. I looked through the people and saw a rather young, attractive brunette standing outside the door. I remembered seeing her at the club when I first met Jake. I looked closely, but I didn't see anyone else with her. A thought flashed through my mind, and I pulled my cell phone out of my shirt pocket. I activated the camera and set it to record, then put it back in my pocket. Then I opened the door but didn't remove the chain. "Yes," I asked Mr. Shipman. She asked quietly, "That is me." I said, "And you're Holly Brinkman?" She said, "I work with your wife. May I come in, please?" "Are you alone?" I asked. "Yes, I'm alone," she replied. I closed the door to disconnect the chain and opened it again to let her inside. After she entered, I closed and locked the door. "What can I do for you, Miss Brinkman?" I asked. "Please call me Holly," she said. "Okay, Holly," I said again. "How can I help you?" She handed me a manila envelope. "What's this?" I asked. "Open it, please." She spoke quietly. I opened the folder and looked inside, seeing a couple of pictures. I put the envelope on the coffee table and went to the kitchen where I grabbed a pair of latex gloves. I didn't want to risk getting my fingerprints on anything. When I returned, I pulled out the pictures and was shocked at what I saw. The picture showed a man who had passed away. "Who is that?" I asked. "It was my husband," she said, tears streaming down her cheeks. "His name was Brian." "Did you report it?" I asked. She nodded her head. "Yes," she said. "The police ruled that a suicide." "How?" I asked. "You don't understand," she said. "The firm we work for has friends in very high and low circles. They own most of the police force and several judges are on their payroll as well." "I see." I said, "Did Jake do this?" She shrugged. "I don't know," she said. "Maybe he ordered it." "So why are you still working at the firm?" I asked. "I have no choice," she said. "Let me guess." I said, "You're not just a legal secretary, am I right?" "That's right," she said. "They did to us what Jake and Marie did to you. Only my husband went after Jake and paid a huge price for it. So you're really just a whore for the firm, aren't you?" I asked. She nodded her head. "Yes," she said. "My job is to be available to the lawyers and their clients." "What's Marie's role in all this?" I asked. "She's kind of like a madam," Holly said. "She does all of our assignments and she added Lucy to her stable?" I asked. "Yes," she responded. I looked into the envelope and saw something else. A doubled folded piece of paper. I pulled it out and opened it. It was a note, but the letters looked like they had been cut out of magazines and newspapers and glued to the paper. Talk about smut. I almost laughed, but suppressed the impulse. "Stan Shipman," the note began. "Stand back, or it could be you," the note read. I looked at Holly. "Did you read that?" I asked her. She shakes her head. "No," she said. "It was dropped off at my apartment this morning with a note for me to deliver it to this address." "Are you ready to tell the district attorney about this?" I asked. She shakes her head. "No," she said. "I'd like to go on with my life if you don't mind. You have no idea how mean these people are, especially Marie. How many people in your firm know about all this?" I asked. "Pretty much everyone above middle management." She responded. I nodded my head figuratively. I said, "Okay, Holly, thanks for telling me about it." "I'm really sorry about that," she said. "You seemed like a really great guy." "Lucy is lucky to have you. Thanks for saying that, Holly." I said, "Have a good day," I added as I opened the door in front of her. I watched her leave and made sure no one else was around. I closed and locked the door. That and the voicemail changed the situation dramatically. I still intended to divorce Lucy, but these threats took things to a new level. I finished watching the video and called Linda. Luckily, she had written her personal phone number on the back of her business card. "This is Linda Calloway," she said when she answered. I told her about the voicemail and the envelope that had just been delivered. "That changes everything." She said, "Okay, I want you to bring it to me right now." She gave me her address and ended the conversation. At that moment, I decided I needed to get out of this Dodge for a while. I packed enough stuff to last me a few days and threw it in the backseat of my F-150. Another thought occurred to me. I grabbed the thing Lucy had used on me the previous night. It, too, had gone in the truck. I had an idea, and I wanted to put it into action a little. After putting some basic welding tools in the truck, I called my boss to let him know what was going on and ask for time off, which he quickly granted me. "The job is done, and you're going to have a bunch of vacation time anyway, so take whatever time you need and deal with it," he said. "Thanks, boss," I said. I checked everything one more time, locked the door, and walked out. I made it to Linda's apartment in less than 30 minutes. She was shocked when she saw the pictures and the note. I also have a videotape of a conversation with the woman who brought this. I said, "It's very enlightening. Let me see it," she said. I pulled out my phone and played her the video. "My God," she sighed when the video ended. "That explains a lot. Could you give me a copy of this?" I handed her my phone so she could do what she needed to do. When she was done, she handed the phone back. It was then that I realized that Lucy's phone was still in my pocket. I pulled it out and held it out to her. "What's this?" asked Linda. "It's Lucy's phone," I said. I put it in my pocket the night Jack attacked me. I completely forgot about it. Until now. Maybe you can find something in there. "I'll have our guys take a look," she said. Then she leaned back in her chair. On second thought, maybe I should contact the state or federal authorities. If what Holly said is true, I can't even trust our own police department. She looked up at me before continuing. "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to leave town for a while," I said. She nodded her head. "What about custody?" "Maybe we should put you in the witness protection program," she said. "Yeah, sure," I said. "Then Jake and his cronies will know exactly where I am." "No thanks." "Okay," she said. "Just let me know where you are, okay?" "Okay," I said. I headed for the exit, not knowing where to go. All I knew was that I needed to get away from this shit for a while. I stopped at the bank, withdrew as much cash as I could, and drove on, constantly watching for cars that might be following me. All I could think about were pictures of that poor guy who got killed for not wanting to be Jake and Marie's cuckold. I knew that if I wasn't careful, it would happen to me. It was late in the afternoon when it finally got to me. I stopped at a bus stop and made a phone call. I hoped it wasn't too late, and thankfully it wasn't. "Yes," said the gruff voice on the other end of the line. "Dave, it's me, Stan," I said. Dave was an old friend of mine. We'd worked different jobs together and got along pretty well. "Stan, you old son of a bitch," he said. "What the hell is going on, man? I got a little problem, and I was wondering if I could come over to your place for a couple of days." I said, "Sure, buddy." He said, "You can come over. Just do me a favor and grab a couple of six-packs, if you don't mind." "No problem, buddy," I said. "I'll see you in a few hours." "See ya," he said and ended the conversation. "Feeling better?" I pulled onto the freeway and headed north. Along the way, I spotted a convenience store, stopped and bought a couple of six-packs of beer as a styrofoam stall in ice to keep it cold. I also heated up my coffee and decided to pick up a couple packs of cigarettes. I didn't normally smoke in the apartment, but I knew Dave smoked and thought he would appreciate the gesture. After all, he'd let me stay with him for a while, so I considered myself indebted, at least to him. Dave Brooklyn was about 15 years older than me and worked with my father. That's how we met. He stayed with us several times when he worked in our neighborhood and was something of a big brother to me. I learned a lot from him working in my father's shop. He had a hard time growing up. His father worked in the shipyards and eventually died of complications from mesothelioma, thanks to the asbestos he was constantly exposed to after his father died. His younger sister Beverly stayed home and looked after their mother until she died about a year ago from stomach cancer. I knew Bev for quite a while. She was an unprincipled girl, attractive in her own way. Of course, I never made a move on her, partly because of Dave's friendship with me and my father, but mostly because I was already in love with Lucy. Bev and I got along fine and were more like siblings, teasing each other about one thing or another. I hadn't seen her in a while, and I was curious to see what she was like now. Like me, Dave married young but ended up divorced when he came home and found his wife with one of her coworkers. He never remarried, but he does go out from time to time. Most of his time is spent caring for Beverly, who now lives with him. Beverly, of course, says she looks after him. I pulled up to Dave's 2-story log house around 2:30 a.m., grabbed my stuff and ice chest, and met Dave on the porch. "Hope you have some beer for us," he said with a smile. Taking the pack of cigarettes I offered him. He opened the door and helped me carry the rest of my stuff into the house. I carried the ice chest into the kitchen and saw a gorgeous blonde woman in a long t-shirt and short pajama pants come down the stairs. "Who's that blonde bombshell?" I asked Dave. He laughed. "You know who I am, dumbass?" the blonde replied. I shifted my gaze to her and realized it was Beverly. She looked nothing like the gangly teenage girl I remembered. "Beverly?" I asked. And confusion. "Is that really you?" "You know it is, asshole," she said wryly. "Why are you here so damn early in the morning? Did Lucy catch you cheating and kick you out of the house or something?" "No, not exactly," I said with a note of annoyance in my voice. Bev's face softened as she understood me. "I'm sorry, Stan," she said, looking at my bruise-covered face. "What happened? Are you okay?" "Not really," I said. "That's why I'm here. Why don't you grab a beer and explain things to us?" said Dave. I nodded my head, grabbed 3 beers, and headed for the front room. I handed one to Dave and then turned to Beverly. "Are you sure you're old enough to drink?" I asked her sarcastically. She smiled, raising her middle finger and snatching the beer from my hands. "Spill it," she said. "What's going on between you two?" "It's pretty awkward," I said. "So," said Beverly, "we're adults and damn close to family, so spill it." "Okay," I said before telling them the whole story about Lucy, Marie, and Jake. I showed them the video of my brief encounter with Holly. They sat stunned into silence when I finished. "Shit," Dave said, taking a sip of his beer. "Do you think they know where you are now?" "I don't think so," I told him. "At any rate, I haven't seen any cars following me." "Well, luckily, we're at the top of the hill and can see anyone heading this way. And I still have the gun I bought from your father after Mikey's accident. You still remember how to shoot, don't you?" I nodded my head. "Yeah, but I haven't touched a gun since it happened." I said, "My younger brother Michael, or Mikey, as everyone had accidentally shot himself in the leg years ago with my father's .22 caliber pistol. Mikey suffered only a minor flesh wound and recovered, but my father was so upset about it that he got rid of all his guns and never changed them. "It's all right," Dave said. "I'll take you to the backyard and let you familiarize yourself with them. Barb can work with you too. She's become quite a marksman." I looked at Beverly and, surprise, she perked up slightly and smiled slyly. "Does your dad know you're here?" asked Dave. I shake my head. "No," I said. "I haven't told anyone where I am, but I have to let the ADA know. You have to remember that I didn't even think about coming here until I was already gone." "Okay," he said. "I'll call your parents and let them know this morning as soon as the sun comes up. Don't use your cell phone if you can help it. In fact, it might be a good idea to turn the phone off and take the battery out of it in case it has some kind of beacon on it." "Good idea," I said, turning the phone off. I unplugged the back cover and took out the battery. "So Lucy and her friends are going to appear before a judge on Monday?" asked Beverly. "Yes, the arraignment will be on Monday." I said, "The prosecutor is hoping the judge will keep them without bail. But after what I heard from Holly, I'm not sure that's going to happen." "Well, you can stay here as long as you need to," Dave said. "I have to go to work in a week, Monday, and I'll be gone for a week. But if you need to hang around, that's fine. How long are you planning to vacation?" "I was planning on 2 weeks," I said. "Hopefully everything will be settled by then." "Like I said, you can stay here," Dave said. "Thanks. I appreciate it." I said, "If there's anything I can do to help, let me know." Dave looked at Beverly, then smiled. "I'm sure Bev can think of a couple of things Dave told me. But you're a guest here, and your ancestors always treated us like royalty. So as far as I'm concerned, you can relax and enjoy the country air. Well, guys, It's been fun, but I have to get up and make breakfast in a few hours, Beverly said as she stood up. I hope you like scrambled eggs and hash browns because that's what I make, she added, looking at me. Breakfast of champions, I told her. Sounds great to me. She waved her hand and headed upstairs. After hearing her bedroom door, Dave and I went outside for a cigarette and a chat. What's the story with her? I asked. I thought she was already married and raising kids. Well, she never met anyone she really cared about, Dave said. She dated a few guys, but according to her, they just didn't fit. Didn't fit with what? I asked. He looked at me seriously with you, nitwit. He said she's always had a crush on you. No way, I said, shocked. Absolutely, he said. The only reason she never told you was because of Lucy. She didn't want to be the reason you broke up. Are you serious? I asked. Like a heart attack, he said. What makes you think she's still in love with me? I asked. I sometimes hear her after she goes to bed. Dave said she has a dildo named Little Stan, and I've heard her use it several times. I've heard her call your name more than once. That's too much information, I said. Dave smiled and took a sip of his beer. Well, it is what it is, he said. So when did Beverly turn into a babe? I asked. She's always been a pretty girl, Dave told me. She just never flaunted it. Besides, you only had eyes for Lucy, remember? Yeah, I remember. I said. Look, between you and me, I'd be more than okay with you two being together, he said. Just do me a favor, okay? What kind? I asked. Don't break her heart, he said. I love my sister, and I think you do too, if you think about it. I just don't want her to get her hopes up and then see you and Lucy make up. It would destroy her. I shake my head. I'm done with Lucy, I said. Good, he said. Well, I'd better go to bed. I'll see you in the morning. He got up, tossed his cigarette in the can, and headed upstairs. I finished my cigarette and headed to bed a few minutes later. I fell asleep as soon as my head touched the pillow. I woke up later when Beverly opened the door and called out to me, "Rise and shine." I wiped my eyes from sleep and noticed it was 8:30. I went to the bathroom and did my morning routine, then took a quick shower, got dressed, went downstairs. After getting dressed, I looked at the ring on my finger and took it off, tossing it on the dresser. As I came downstairs, I saw Beverly in the kitchen making breakfast. She was just adorable, and I wondered why I hadn't seen her before. Smells good, I said. She smiled. I'm glad you think so, cowboy, she said. The coffee's ready if you want it. Do you still like butter pecan creamer? Of course I do, I said. Do you have some? Yeah, she said. It's in the fridge. Help yourself to some. Just save some for Dave and me. I poured a cup of coffee and added some cream. I love Southern butter pecan thanks to my dad. Dave had gotten hooked on it when my dad brought some to the construction site. Have a seat, she told me with a smile. I'll be right with you. I sat down at the table where Dave was already sitting reading the Sunday paper. Good morning, I said. He looked at me over the top of the paper. Good morning, he said back. Anything interesting in the news? I asked. Yeah, there's an article in the paper about some fancy lawyer getting arrested on various charges, he said. Take a look, he added, holding out the article to me. There were no names or details in the article. It was boilerplate news that meant nothing to those who didn't know the whole story. I hummed and held the paperback out. By then, Bev had finished making breakfast and was wheeling it on a cart to the table. Very tasty, I said, taking a big bite. Thank you, kind sir, Beverly replied with a smile. I'm glad you approve. We finished breakfast and Dave stood up, putting his plate away. I need to go into town and get some things, he said. I'll be gone for at least a couple hours. If you need to the DEA, you can use the house phone. Thanks, I said. Beverly handed him the list of things she needed, and he slipped it into his pocket. He took his keys and headed for the exit. I looked at Beverly. Do you need help putting the dishes away? I asked. I don't necessarily need any, but I'd appreciate it, she replied. Thanks for asking. I got up and helped her clear the table. She tossed me a towel and started washing the dishes that were already in the sink. I see you're not wearing a ring, she said as she washed a plate. Are you really going to divorce her? Yes, said. I told her I won't tolerate cheating and I mean it. Good, she said with a slight smile. Glad to see you still have balls. What's your story? I asked. How are you doing? She shrugged. Okay, I guess, she said. Is there anyone special in your life? I asked. There was once, she said, but he was taken away. Besides, I couldn't have a relationship anyway. Too busy taking care of my parents. That's what I heard. I said, "Yeah, but it had to be done," she said. "After my dad died, my mom needed my help. I worked as a waitress to bring in some money since all she had was Dad's 401k and a little Social Security. I worked until she got sick so I could do something. And then I stayed home and took care of her full time. I'm sorry to hear that." I said, "Don't be," she said. "I don't regret staying home with her. I just hope that when I'm her age, someone will be there to help me." "So what happened?" I asked. "There wasn't much left over. After Mom died," she said, "we had to sell the house and a lot of her stuff with what was left of Dad's pension and 401k. We were able to pay for all of her last expenses. There wasn't much left, and Dave let me take them since I was taking care of her. He promised Mom that he would let me stay here with him, and I've been here ever since. Dave offered to pay for my college tuition, but I refused." "Why?" I asked. "I don't want to be beholden to anyone," she said. "I want to succeed on my own if I can. That's why I'm staying here and working at the McDonald's in town. I earn enough to cover my expenses, and I'm taking some business courses in the evenings. Good for you." I said, "Yeah, but Dave has an idea to start his own fabric business, and he mentioned that I'd be doing the bookkeeping and stuff." She said, "Is he still talking about it?" I asked. "Yes," she responded. "He does a lot of one-off things for the locals, custom grills, trailers, that sort of thing. It's good money for it. His dream is to stay home and work in his workshop in the backyard. Maybe he can show it to you while you're here. That would be great." I said. We fell silent, and I found myself admiring her for the first time. I realized how beautiful she really was, and not just in appearance before she said anything. She looked at me. "What are you looking at?" she asked. "I think I'm looking at the most beautiful woman ever met," I told her. I thought I saw a tear appear in her eye. "Stop teasing me," she said quietly, looking down. "I'm not teasing." I said, "I can't help but admire you. You put your life on hold for your parents, refused to accept Dave's offer to put you through college, and now you're working on your own. I'm just sorry I didn't see it sooner." "Well, you were blindsided by Lucy, so I can't take offense at you," she said. "Yeah, you're probably right," I said. After she had rinsed all the dishes, she ran the water down the sink, wiped her hands, and turned to me. "She used you?" "You know," Bev said, "I think you're right." I said, "Of course I'm right," she said. "I saw right through her years ago." "Why didn't you say anything?" I asked. "You wouldn't have believed me," she said. I realized she was probably right. Hell, she couldn't have done wrong in your eyes. She had her little fingers so tied around you. "You do anything for her. All I wanted was for her to be happy," I said. "And look where that got her," she remarked rhetorically. "She got a degree, a new car, all sorts of trinkets and clothes, all at your expense. And when she didn't need you anymore, she traded you in for a new model. I'm glad she's in jail. Because if she were here now, I don't know what I'd do. I believe you would." I said, "I just want to know one thing," she said, putting her hands on her hips. "What's that?" I asked. "Are you going to give in to her tears and take her back?" she asked. I shake my head. "No," I said. "That ship has sailed. It's not going to happen after Friday." "Good," she said. "And if you ever have any doubts, remember this. We made love. We'd better get cleaned up before Dave gets back," she said. "I've got some meat to put out for tonight, so why don't you run down and take a quick shower?" "Okay, I'll be up in a bit." "Okay," I said. "What's up with the meat?" "We like to barbecue on Sundays, weather permitting," she said. "You like venison, don't you?" "Yes." "I love venison," I said, "but I haven't eaten it in years." "Good," she said. "I shot it myself with a .50 caliber, Dave's flintlock. Even dressed it in the field with my own hands." "God, you're just a woman?" I said. "A rugged woman in the wilderness." I'm really impressed. I had seen Dave's flintlock and knew it had to be at least 49 inches long. "Did you load it yourself?" I asked her. "Of course," she replied. "A patched round ball with 100 grams of double F powder. Even molded the bullet myself." "Damn," I said. "You like fishing too?" She smiled. "I love fishing," she said. "I even bait my own books and clean the fish myself." "Is there anything you haven't done yet?" I asked sarcastically. "I haven't rebuilt the gearbox in Dave's truck yet," she replied. "However, I did help him rebuild the engine. I'm definitely in love." "No time for that now," she said. Wait until tonight when we go to bed. By the way, you'll be sleeping with me now. My bed is much bigger than the one in your room. Won't Dave be upset? I asked. No, she replied. Besides, we're both consenting adults. I need to call the DA and let her know where I am. I said, Beth pointed to the cordless phone in the cradle. Go ahead and use that phone, she said. I picked up the receiver and called, almost forgetting that it was a long-distance phone. Linda picked up after the second ring. Linda Calloway, she said. Linda, this is Stan Shipman. I said, I called to let you know where I am. Stan. Thank God you called. She said I was starting to get worried. I see you're calling long distance. Where are you? I'm at an old family friend's house. I said I turned off my cell phone just to be safe. Good, she said. I'll keep you updated as much as possible. I've already heard from the feds. It seems they're looking into the firm your wife works for. By the way, I took the liberty of talking to an old friend of mine who happens to be the best divorce attorney around. I hope you don't mind. No, I don't mind, I said. Good. Linda said she's expecting a call from you tomorrow. I told her a little about your situation. If anyone can handle it, she can. Thanks, I said. I will. Linda gave me the information I needed and promised to let me know how it went at the hearing before we ended the conversation. By then, Dave returned and I went out to help him drop off what he'd bought, by the way. He said, when we were done, I called your folks. They were really worried about you. I told them you'd be staying with us for a while. Thank you. I told him that night we barbecued some meat and enjoyed dinner on the patio. After dinner, we all set about cleaning up. Dave and I grabbed a beer each and went for a smoke while Beverly finished the job. Bev said you're going to sleep in her room. Dave said, is that for how long? I felt a little awkward discussing this with him. After all, she was a sister. I think so, I said. You think? He asked. Yes, I do. I said, I just need to get a divorce soon. Do you love her? He asked. Yes, I do, I said. Good, he said. You should pull your head out of your ass a long time ago, he added with a smile. Look, Barb is a big girl and can make her own decisions. She can definitely take care of herself. I just don't want her to get hurt, that's all. I would never hurt her, I said. I'm glad to hear that, he said. Welcome to our family, he added, holding out his hand. I took it and we shook hands heartily. Just don't keep me up all night, okay? I laughed, nodding my head. I'll try, I said. That night, after Bev and I made love in her bed, I pulled her against me and thought about our possible future together. In that moment, I felt more content than I had in a long time. What are you thinking about? She asked quietly about the future. I replied. She asked. Yes, I answered. I mean, what do you want out of life? Where do you see yourself in, say, 5 or 10 years from now? I know it's popular among women right now to want to break through the glass ceiling and reach for the brass rings, she said. But I'm not like that. I don't aspire to a career or anything like that. All I want is a faithful husband who loves me as much as I love him and a family to take care of. That's it. What about your classes? I asked. That's mostly for Dave, she said. When he starts his own business, he's going to need help. How about you? What do you want out of life? I guess I'm a lot like you. I said all I really want is a faithful wife who loves me as much as I love her and a family of my own. I thought I had that with Lucy, but it didn't work out. What about your job? She asked. I like what I do for a living, I said. Sometimes it takes me away for a couple of weeks. Can you handle that? She laughed. Please, she said. My brother's a welder like you, remember? I know what to expect. I can handle anything as long as I know you'll come home to me. I stared at her for a few moments before saying something. I wish I had met you before I met Lucy, I said. Me too, she said, but what's done is done. We'll get through this together, okay? We're a team and we can do anything as long as we're together. I'll always be there for you, no matter what happens. I love you so much, I said, kissing her. I love you even more, she said, hugging me. I fell asleep, feeling truly loved for the first time in forever. The next day, Beverly got up before everyone else after making breakfast. She ran upstairs to get ready for work. On the way out, she kissed me, letting me know that after her shift, she had school that evening. I usually get home at 9:30, so you guys will have to manage on your own, she said. Remember, no matter what happens, I love you, and I'm here for you. I love you too, I said, returning her kiss. She had known how much it meant to hear those words from her. What? Asked Dave. Don't I get a kiss too? He added with a smile. Beverly laughed and gave him a sisterly peck on the cheek. You too. Try to stay out of trouble, okay? She asked as she walked away. I need to call that divorce lawyer Linda recommended to me, I said, glancing at my watch. Dave pointed to the phone and I picked it up and called the law office of Bernice Goodwin, answered the friendly female voice on the other end of the line. I introduced myself and asked if Bernice was available, letting the receptionist know she was expecting my call. Miss Goodwin is expecting your call, sir, the woman said. One moment, please. I heard some sort of musical accompaniment and the receiver for a few moments before another woman answered me. Ernest Goodwin. The woman said, How can I help you? This is Stan Shipman. I said, Linda Calloway gave me your number and said, I should call you this morning. Yes, Mr. Shipman, she said. Linda told me some of what's been going on and I've been waiting for your call. Normally, I prefer the first meeting to be private, but I understand that's not possible this time. That's okay. In this day and age, we can do most of this online. Please tell me your story and don't leave anything out. I took some time to explain the situation and she patiently listened to me. What are your expectations? She asked when I was done. I want as much as I can get. I said no alimony and at least my share of our assets. I think we can do that. Bernie said your wife, who has criminal charges against her, should strengthen your case. However, I need to see your financial records. Do you own any property, a house, anything like that? No. We live in an apartment. I said, what about the lawsuit against Marie and Jake? She asked. Alienation of affection suits are allowed in the state, but I have to tell you that they usually don't go very far. You're probably better off suing for intentional infliction of mental anguish. Do what you think is right. I said, okay. She said, I'll take a closer look at it and get into action. Do you have an email address? Yes, I do. I said, good. She told me. I'll send you some documents. One is a contract for you to sign and return electronically. The other is a checklist of things to do. Take care of that for me, please. I also need you to pay in advance. Can you do that today? Yes, I answered. Good. I'll send it all to you, and once it's done, I'll hand over the paperwork, she said. Any questions yet? No questions, I said. I gave her my email address, whereupon she transferred me to her assistant, who took down my credit card information. After talking on the phone, I turned on my laptop and checked my email. Sure, there was an email from Bernice with 2 documents attached. I opened the contract electronically, signed it, and sent it back with a receipt to make sure she received it. There was also a document advising me how to protect myself financially. Thank goodness for online banking, I thought. It took a while, but I was able to open a new account for myself and transfer half of our savings and checks into it. I paid off and canceled Lucy's credit card, but left mine open since I'd just paid my fee with it. By the time I was all done, it was past noon, and Dave drove me to a store where he was working on a trailer for one of the farmers in the area. I worked with him for a while and found the activity somewhat relaxing. About 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we got a phone call. Dave picked up the phone using an extension cord from his store and handed the receiver to me. It's your lawyer, he said. It's Stan, I said, picking up the phone. Stan? Linda Calloway here. She said, bad news. The judge said, all of them minimum bail and release them. How is that possible? I asked. He's probably on their payroll, she said. Fortunately, the protective order is in effect, but I'm afraid it's no more use than the paper it's written on. Your best bet is to stay where you are, stay out of town. The feds are keeping an eye on them for now, but I can't guarantee your safety. Terrific, I said. So what do we do now? Stay where you are, she said. I'll do what I can on this side. Call me if you need anything, okay? Yeah, okay. I said. We ended the conversation and I handed the phone back to Dave. Bad news? He asked. Yeah, I said. The judge let them go. Shit, he said. I'd better call your folks and let them know. That sounds like an excellent concept. I said I should probably be the one to let them know. Dave nodded his head and handed the phone back to me. I dialed the number and my dad answered on the second ring. Dad, it's me, Stan. I said, how are you doing, son? He asked. I'm doing fine, I replied. I just wanted to let you know that the judge let Lucy and her friends go free. You might want to be on your guard. Something tells me they might pay you a visit to find out where I am. Don't worry, son, he said. We won't tell them anything. Are you still at John Harrison's? The question surprised me since he already knew where I was. John Harrison was a retired molder my father and I had worked for in the past. After retirement, he and his wife moved to a place about 2 hours south of town. And then it hit me. Lucy and her friends are probably there right now looking for me. I decided to play along with the ruse. I'm actually at a motel about 50 miles south. I told him, okay. He said the important thing is that you're okay. I'm fine, I said, but I'll be leaving here in the morning. I'm planning on heading east. Just let me know where you are, okay, son? He asked. Yeah, sure. I said, can I talk to Mom? She's busy in the bathroom right now, Dad said. I listened carefully and thought I heard a noise in the background. Okay, I said. Tell her I'm okay, and I love her. I will, son, Dad said. I could hear the tension in his voice and prayed he was safe. We'll talk soon, okay? Absolutely, Dad. I said, love you too, son, he said before the call ended. I looked at Dave and made another call. What's up, Stan? Said Linda, picking up the phone. I think Lucy and her friends are at my parents' house, I told her. Okay, she said. I'll get a couple federal agents and head over there right away. Stay put. We ended the conversation and I handed the phone back to Dave. What's happening? He asked. I think Lucy and her buddies are at my parents' house trying to figure out where I am. I said, yeah, I heard what you told your dad. He said, do you think they'll buy that rose? I hope so. I said, at least for a few hours. I knew we had 6 to 8 hours at most if they headed south to John's house. Maybe I'd better head out and find a place to hide until this is over. No, Dave said. You and I are in this together. You stay where you are. Let me clean up a little and I'll head into town. Talk to the sheriff. Don't go anywhere. You hear me? I nodded my head. A couple of hours later, he left the house and headed into town. After he left, Linda called back. Stan, you were right, she said. Lucy, Marie, Jake, and a couple of their goons got there after the hearing. They tied up your folks and threatened them. They said they wouldn't give away your whereabouts. Now we've put out an APB on them. They left one of their thugs here, and he's in custody now. Of course he's not talking. Do you know where they are headed? I asked. No, I don't. But I don't think they bought your story, she said. Here, talk to your dad. A few seconds later, my dad was on the phone. Stan, I don't think they bought that ruse, he said. Are you guys okay? I asked. Yeah, we're fine, right now. But I think Lucy and her friends are headed your way, he said. What makes you think that? I asked. I overheard Lucy talking, he said. Good. I said. Let Linda know to get the sheriff down here. I will, son, he said. Be careful, you hear? I will, Dad. I said. The next voice on the phone was Linda's. Where are you located? She asked. I told her where I was and gave her directions. Do you think Lucy knows where this is? She knows, I said. Good, Linda said. Stay where you are. We'll send someone there as fast as we can. We finished talking and I headed toward the house. As I was leaving the store, I heard a familiar voice. It was Jake. Jake, he mentioned. Thought you could outsmart us. Nice try. Telling your parents or going when really you're up north. Lucky for us, Lucy knew that's where you were going. Now move, he added, waving the gun around. Get in, he said, pointing to a black SUV. I climbed into the back seat and saw Lucy looking at me with a smirk. Thought you could outsmart us, she asked with a smirk. It's not going to end well for you, Lucy. I said, the cops will be here soon enough. Never mind, she said. It'll be too late for you. You should have just accepted the program. Now you're going to pay for it. Marie and Jake giggled. Jake told us to take them to a place along the creek bed at the bottom of the hill when we got there. So you're planning to destroy me, right? I asked Lucy. She laughed. You know what they say? Dead men tell no tales, she said. Jake and Marie laughed. Why? I asked her. Why did you do that? She shrugged. What can I say? She asked rhetorically. He's richer than you. Besides, I don't want to be married to a welder for the rest of my life. I want the good life, and Jake can give it to me. Are you two done reminiscing? Asked Jake. We have things to do, and it's getting late. I'm sure you know what happens next, old boy, he said. Don't worry. Then I heard a shot, a rifle shot, and 2 more shots. Lucy looked around, frightened, and tried to take cover behind Jake. In the background, I heard the distinctive sound of a 4-wheeler and realized it was heading toward us. I tried to see who it was, but all I could see was a cloud of dust coming closer. Then it was upon us, and I could see long blonde hair streaming behind the driver. I knew it was Beverly. She stopped the four-wheeler and jumped off holding a hunting rifle. Once free, I sat back and watched her run up to Lucy. "Don't you dare touch my man again!" yelled Beverly. "Do you understand me?" Lucy slowly nodded her head. Sirens howled in the distance. So Beverly walked over to the four-wheeler and pulled out a flare gun. She pointed it into the sky and fired a flare to let the cops know where she was. Soon we saw flashing lights heading in our direction. "Are you okay, honey?" she asked, walking over to me. "I am now," I replied. "You saved my life. I'll never be able to repay you for that. Trust me, you'll have the rest of your life to make it up to me," she said with a smile. Soon we found ourselves surrounded by police cars. Dave pulled up in his truck and got out of it to check us out. One of the deputies called for an ambulance and a medical examiner. "Are you okay?" asked Dave, coming up to us. "I am now, thanks to Bev," I said. "She saved my life." The sheriff took our statements and monitored the operation. By now, the ambulance had arrived and the paramedics were tending to Marie and Lucy. She destroyed Jake and Ronnie. Marie yelled, "Aren't you going to arrest her?" "No," the sheriff said. "This is Dave's property and the fortress doctrine applies here. Miss Braun had every right to protect Mr. Shipman's life. Consider yourself lucky. She didn't destroy you, too." As I watched the sheriff's deputies handcuffed Lucy and led her away, the sheriff informed me that he was charging her and Marie with attempted murder and conspiracy to commit murder after the officers collected evidence and removed the bodies. We were released. I rode the quad bike with Beverly to the house. "I thought you had class today," I said. "What happened?" Dave stopped by McDonald's and told me what happened. She said, "I excused myself and came home. I had to make sure you were okay. I saw tire tracks in the grass and followed them to where you were. So I got in the deer stand I had set up. Well, you know the rest. When I saw what Jake was going to do, I just reacted. I'll catch up. Don't worry, I'm not worried." I said, "I'm grateful, more than you can imagine." I grabbed my phone and called Linda to let her know what had happened. She was relieved to hear that I was okay. "They'll be where we need them after this," she said. "Don't worry, the firm is going down and hard." "I sure hope so," I said. Afterward, I called my parents to let them know what had happened. They too were happy. Hear that things had ended well for us. Epilogue: Marie recovered from her wounds, and she and Lucy went to trial on charges of attempted murder and conspiracy commit murder. They were found guilty and convicted on the charges related to my initial assault and unlawful detention. Both were given life sentences and faced more charges to the conspiracy and racketeering of the firm. In all that time, I only saw them twice. Once when Bev and I were called to testify, and the second time when they were sentenced. Both times they looked like shit, and I couldn't help but smile. The bottom line was that neither of them would ever breathe free air again, and I couldn't have been happier. Meanwhile, Beatrice had secured a divorce, and because of Lucy's convictions, convinced the judge not to give her anything. She also secured a large payout to Marie and Jake's inheritance. By the time she was done, I was in the money. Yes, Bernie's got some of it, but I was very happy with my share. The firm also got a very large sum as the partners defended against numerous federal charges, including racketeering and charges related to the mysterious deaths of 2 other men. By the time all was said and done, the firm was forced to close up store, and the partners found themselves behind bars for life. All of this happened over the course of about 6 months. By the time it was over, I had more than enough money for Beverly and I to live on for years to come. I bought her a beautiful ring and proposed to her in a dignified way, getting down on one knee. She squealed and showered me with kisses. A month or so later, we were married and spent a week in Las Vegas. When we got back, we sat Dave down in the living room and proposed to him. His eyes widened when we suggested we start a company called D&S Welding and Custom Fabrications. "Are you serious?" he asked us. "Hell yeah," I replied. Beverly pulled out her spreadsheet and showed him the business plan she had drawn up. After studying it carefully, he leaned back in his chair. "You know, I think this could work," he said. "By the way, I almost forgot," he added and reached into his pocket. He pulled out a bunch of keys and held them out to us. "You know that lot on the south side?" "Yes," Beverly replied. What's there? Did you see the new two-bedroom house on it? He asked. Yes, she answered. We thought you had sold that lot. No, he said. It's your wedding present from me and your parents, he added, looking at me. It's brand new and equipped with all the latest advances. By the way, the plot and the house are registered in your name. Your dad and I have already moved your stuff from your apartment there, except for the stuff with Lucy's picture on it, of course. Wow. I said, I don't even know what to say. Sure, I could afford a custom-built house, but a two-bedroom house was nice and just as sturdy as a log home. I certainly wasn't going to look a gift horse in the mouth. I knew this place had to cost them well over $150,000. Say thanks, partner, he said, holding out his hand. I smiled and took his hand. We found ourselves in a manly bear hug. Would you mind if we went down there? Asked Beverly. I'd hate to see you alone. I'll be fine, he said. Besides, I'll finally be able to get a great night's sleep. I'm growing bored of listening to you moan all night long. We partied that night, and I contacted my folks to thank them for the present. Later that evening, Beverly and I christened the master bedroom. Yes, I thought, sleeping in each other's arms. Things are shaping up just right. Thank you for taking the time to hear today's story. If you enjoyed the story, please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. If you have a tale to share with me regarding your own or someone else's circumstance, please do not hesitate to contact me. Take care.